You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Well, good morning. Sorry for the little bit of delay, but I believe we are all together now, both here in person and in offices up in Albany and Buffalo. My name is Kevin Law, and as chair, I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development, for this Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. Welcome to ESD's new beautiful offices. I'm sure Hope is going to mention that, but looks terrific. I hope all the staff is enjoying the new space. Before we begin with the business of today's meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome two new board members who were both nominated by Governor Kathy Hochul and confirmed by the New York State Senate just a couple of weeks ago. And we have one with us here in person and one with us on the video. And so joining us today live from Buffalo is Francine Del Monte, who's joining us from Western New York. And so, Francine, we'll wave to you. We look forward to meeting you in person and getting to know you. And the second new board member is somebody I've known for a long time. She hails from Long Island. It's Lorraine Harris. She's one of the most respected attorneys on the island and also chairs the Association for Better Long Island, a big real estate development group. She's a terrific person, and I know we're all going to enjoy working with you, Lorraine. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So as we always do, let's first go around and do a roll call with the board members so I can recognize a quorum, and then we'll have the other members of the team introduce themselves. So we'll start with Michael.
Michael Rosen, board member.
John Wong, board member.
Rob Simpson, board member.
Lorraine Harris, board member.
And then Hilda.
Vincent Martin,
Yeah, Vincent.
designee.
Board member.
Hope Knight, President CEO.
And Francine, as I mentioned, Del Monte, welcome. So I will, clearly recognize a quorum. Sometimes we cut it close, but it's nice to have some additional bodies with us. So thank you all for joining. And now, starting with Noah, we'll have everybody introduce themselves, especially for our new board members, so they know who's at the table.
Noah Raymond, Chief of Staff.
Arden Sokolow, EVP of Real Estate.
Liz Luskin, EVP Small Business and Technology Development.
Simone Bethune, Loans and Grants.
Sylvia Codoni, AVP at New York Ventures.
Karen Mehta, Senior Director, New York Ventures.
Beth Yee, Interim VP, Entrepreneur Development.
Joshua Breitbart, Senior Vice President, Connect All.
Kathleen Mize, Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Controller.
Ray Orlando, Chief Financial Officer.
Felisa Hochgeiser, Director of Compliance.
Joshua Bloodworth, General Counsel.
Dawn Sanders, VP for Agency Services and Business Development. Sitting in for Jason.
Great. You're welcome. Dawn, are you new? Have we met?
I don't think so.
No, are you new?
I'm sitting in for Jason. I'm his designee today.
Jason, well, welcome. And
yes, and hi, I'm on the line as well. Jason Clark, EVP for the division.
I'm sorry, Jason. I was just going to get to the folks online. So Jason has a presentation he'll be doing soon. And I think I see Eunice on the TV, but Kev?
Kevin Eunice, Gemini. And COO. Ed Hamilton, EVP Administration.
Very good. And Francine, is there anybody joining you from staff on that? Or is no? I can't see that far. Is she by herself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you all. I'd like to just remind any staff members joining us today remotely to please mute your audio until you're ready to speak. And I'm going to also ask some folks at the end of the table. Some of you I heard better than others, so just ask you to speak up at the end of the table when it's your turn. The public was given an opportunity to attend today's meeting and to provide comments on the agenda items. I'd state for the record that we do not have any members of the public here. Is that correct? Um, with us, and we have not received any written comments as of noon yesterday on any of the items that we'll be discussing and acting on today. As always, the directors have received the written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time during the presentations. I'll ask at this time if any directors have any potential conflicts of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda.
I have
Hilda?
to abstain from statewide entrepreneurship assistance centers,
For which one?
the entrepreneurship assistance centers.
Okay, Hilda will abstain on that one when we get to it. And Rob?
Item 3A, local assistance project for Center State CEO.
Great. All right, with the foregoing conflicts noted for the record, I'd also like to mention that the minutes of the May 18th meeting were not ready in time for today's meeting, and they'll be presented to us for approval at the next meeting once finalized.
No wonder why I was saying this for Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Francine, you might want to put your phone on mute. Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll get right to the agenda. And the first item, as always, is Hope Knight, our President and CEO, will provide her President's report.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, directors. I'd especially like to welcome our two new board members, Francine and Lorene. We're excited to have you join us, and I look forward to working with both of you. And it's fitting that you join us at our...
I'm sorry, staff, the staff that's on the line, could you please mute your lines? We have some feedback coming on into the meeting. Thank you so much.
In fact, you know, staff, with our new offices and new technology, we can now identify which one of you have your phones off mute, and penalties will be forthcoming.
Yes.
It's good.
So it's fitting that you join us for our first meeting in our new offices. I hope you like them as much as we do. It took a lot of work to get here, and it was definitely a team effort. But I'd especially like to thank Ed Hamilton, our EVP of Administration, Lisa Sutton from Ed's team, and the entire administrative staff and IT department for all of their hard work in making this transition as seamless as possible. It's been a busy spring for ESD. Earlier this month, the Dutch King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands visited Albany. There's a long-standing history between New York State and the Netherlands. In fact, this year marks 400 years since Fort Orange was built, the first permanent Dutch settlement in Albany. And today, the Netherlands and New York are both global leaders in the semiconductor industry, with a significant opportunity for partnership and collaboration. During the royal visit, ESD helped to organize a summit of Dutch semiconductor businesses, participated in a tour of New York Creates, and worked with the governor's office to formalize a working relationship with the Dutch government and an MOU signed by Governor Hochul. On a personal note, back in 2003, when I was working at the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, I had the opportunity to tour the Crown Princess Maxima at the time, Harlem. So it was great to see her 21 years later.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. We also have an exciting internal update about ESD's work in semiconductors. Last month, Governor Hochul announced the appointment of Meredith Andrucci as the executive director of GoSemi. This office is within ESD and is responsible for overseeing the state's efforts to develop the semiconductor ecosystem in New York and managing the $100 billion Micron project in central New York. Meredith will work closely with our COO, semiconductor guru, Kevin Eunice. She brings more than 2 decades of economic development experience, including here at ESD. She served as USA Niagara Development Corporation, the president there, and was senior director of industry development focused on semiconductor industry expansion, retention, and attraction. She has rejoined ESD from NYSERDA, where she was focused on advancing the state's energy goals. This is especially crucial as sustainability is a major pillar of our semiconductor industry attraction efforts. Meredith has already hit the ground running, and we're excited to have her here on board to guide our efforts in establishing New York State as a global semiconductor hub. So in closing, I'd like to congratulate our Deputy CFO and Comptroller Kathleen Mize on her upcoming retirement. Kathleen will be leaving ESD in July after nearly 2 decades. In that time, through her hard work and dedication, ESD has received clean audit opinions every year. She's incredibly thorough, and her commitment to excellence is unparalleled. And she was instrumental in maintaining our close relationship with our colleagues from the state's Office of Budget. She will be missed by our colleagues throughout ESD and across the state. And I'd like to just turn this over to Kevin Eunice, who has worked with Kathleen for a very long time.
Hey, thanks. So, speaking of royalty, 17 years ago, I started working with Kathleen here at ESD, and I will say there is nobody who is more passionate and committed to doing the right thing and hard work, sometimes to the detriment of her own personal health, just working so hard and so committed to this organization. She is such, I think, as Ray has said, you could build a house on the numbers that she provides us because she checks and then triple checks, and it is with such confidence that we know that anything Kathleen sends our way has been thoroughly checked and is accurate. I would say she is solution oriented, right? She is always trying to find a way to get things done, but making sure they're done correctly. Kathleen has become a great friend. I will both personally and professionally really miss her, but wish her the best in her next episode. But I would just, on behalf of the organization, on behalf of me personally, Kathleen, thank you. Really been truly a pleasure and an honor to work with you for the last 17 years.
Those are humbling words. I stand here humbled. I have been dedicated to this organization, but I have to say it has been a great honor and privilege to both be supportive in ESD finance and be part of an organization with such committed leadership and such dedicated and hardworking colleagues. I will take this experience with me into the next chapter of my life and never forget it. I hope to continue to help in any way I can. I thank the board always for their support, and I look forward to supporting anyone as needed through the rest of the time that I can be of help. And thank you again for everyone.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Kathleen. And that concludes my president's report.
Very good. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Hope? All right. Well, now we go right back to Kathleen. So I wanted to also say a few words. So I've known Kathleen I knew Kathleen before she even joined ESD. And when I was practicing law, I represented the town of Huntington on a case that went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But as for the lawyers in the room, it's always nice to have a client. And it's even better when you have a client that pays your bills. So I want to thank Kathleen for always paying my invoices when she was at the town of Huntington. And but seriously, yes, you've been a pleasure to work with, and always very helpful here. And to the board, we'll miss you, and we wish you great luck in your next phase. But you got to go out working, so you got a presentation to make, and I know you have some folks here in the room to share some information with us as well. So thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. Yes, it's with great happiness I present this report to the board. So thank you, Chair Laura, and good morning, directors. The Public Authorities Law requires annual approval by the corporation's board of directors and certifications by the president and chief executive officer and the chief financial officer of certain financial reports, the reports. The reports consist of financial information set forth in the consolidated financial statements and independent auditor's report, March 31, 2024, and 2023, the audit report, as prepared with the corporation's independent audit firm, EFPR Group, LLP. The audit report for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2024, contains an unmodified, clean opinion reflecting that the consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position, results of operations, and cash flows of the corporation and its subsidiaries. In addition, the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance, addressing whether control deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control exist, did not identify any deficiencies that would be considered to be material weaknesses. The audit firm was able to obtain reasonable assurance that the corporation's financial statements are free of material misstatement by performing tests of compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements, including the corporation's investment guidelines and other matters. Non-compliance with any of these could have had a direct and material effect on the financial statements. Included in the materials presented is the complete audit report for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2024. The preparation of the audit report included 30.4% participation by MBE and/or WBE firms and 6% by an SD/VOB firm. The audit report was presented to the Audit and Budget Committee earlier this morning and was accepted without comment. With us today are Douglas Zimmerman and Brent Jensen, partners of ESD's audit firm, and we are happy to answer any questions that the directors may have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. As Kathleen alluded to, we just met earlier this morning at 8:30 with the Audit and Finance Committee meeting to go over the reports. And as board members, you always want to hear unmodified and clean opinion. And certainly that's what we received. And several other reports have shown that, the ESD is a well-managed and organization, and all internal controls and processes were reviewed and, essentially found that, there are no issues, no areas of concern for the board members. And so with that, I'll move the approval of these reports. Michael seconds them, and we'll entertain any comments or questions from any board members on any of the materials that were sent. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
None. The motion carries. And Francine, we heard your vote, so thank you. So Kathleen, does that conclude your business?
Yes.
For the last time.
For the last time.
God bless you. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay. We have a couple of corporate actions before we get to the regional projects. The first corporate action, we have Christy Schwepke. Got that? All right, I got that. Thank you. I'm sorry, Christy. She's our Economic Development Program Specialist. And there's a new statewide program that got approved in the budget this year. And what the new board members will say, whenever the state legislature creates a new project, they tend to give it to ESD to administer, because we know how to get stuff done. So that's the tee up for you, Christy.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning. We are requesting the director's authorization to adopt program guidelines, and in doing so, create the County Infrastructure Grant Program. This program is being created to support county-led infrastructure projects across the state, with enhanced awards for projects that support the creation of housing. The program focuses on small-scale infrastructure projects that are priority capital projects for counties, and investment in projects that contribute to placemaking, support the creation of housing, and encourage visitation and tourism. Thank you. And with that, I will take any questions.
Great. Christy, will we or will somebody be advertising this to the counties to let them know this program exists and that they can apply?
Yes, we're working on all of the preliminary stuff at the moment, but yeah, the counties will be notified
Yeah.
that they can apply and when it will be open.
Yeah, it should not be a big chore. The New York City counties are excluded. That's 59 counties that might be eligible, so we could get that message out there to them. Okay, all right.
Right.
So, I will move this. John Wong seconds it. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. And I should have noted both for this and the last vote we just took, there were no comments from the public on either item. All right, thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
All right, and here in person today, we have Joshua Breitbart, our Senior VP, who has another item from the Connect All program. Josh?
Thank you, Chair, members of the board, and President Knight. The board is requested to approve guidelines for the Connect All Connectivity Innovation Program and authorization to take related action. The Connectivity Innovation Program will provide grants, seed funding, and matching funds to develop, pilot, and deploy innovative models and technologies for the delivery of broadband service to meet the needs of rural, low-income, and other areas that would otherwise not see investment. This deployment of innovative and new broadband solutions, business models, and technologies will see increased private sector investment and entrepreneurship to drive equity and innovation in the broadband marketplace and reinforce a thriving research, development, and manufacturing ecosystem to support connectivity innovation in New York. As described in the New York State Wired Act, the program will issue grants that A, benefit the development of innovative and new broadband solutions and technologies, B, deploy innovative broadband technology to rural, low-income, or other areas that would be unlikely to otherwise see such deployment, C, promote critical private sector investment in such technologies, D, provide seed funding for the development of such technologies and products, and or E, foster collaboration between the academic research community and the business sector for such purposes. The Connect All office will establish the procedures to solicit, receive, and evaluate the proposals and make the grant awards. Yeah.
That is Josh?
Yeah.
Josh, just for the benefit of Lorraine and Francine and a refresher for the board members. So the state legislature created the New York State Wire Act, and there are 5 different components of the 5 different programs. And for each program, we had to develop guidelines and procedures for. And is this the 4th or is this the 5th?
Of the signature programs, this is the 5th. So one is the Municipal Infrastructure and Assistance Program. The board approved guidelines for that in September. That's a $228 million program funded by the Treasury Department's Capital Projects Fund from the American Rescue Plan Act. We expect to bring grant disbursement awards to the board this fall under that program. The Affordable Housing Connectivity Program is a $100 million program funded by the same Capital Projects Fund. We've qualified multiple internet service providers for that program and have applications for that process. The board approved those guidelines last April 2023. The Connect All Deployment Program, this is an approximately $700 million program focused on bringing service to all of the remaining unserved locations in the state using funding from the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. The timeline of that means the funds will be dispersed in 2025, but we have a pre-qualification application that is open now. And lastly, the Digital Equity Program. This provides the supports for broadband use, device access, education, et cetera. The board approved those guidelines in September. The governor committed $50 million to that program. The first of that is $37 million in federal funding that we're in the process of applying for now, and we expect additional federal funding to come in subsequent years that we'll be applying for, also made available through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So those are the 5 signature programs, including the Connectivity Innovation Program that the governor originally established, announced with the Connect All initiative.
Great. So now with the vote today, we will have approved 5 different sets of guidelines to implement the program. And then when you issue specific grants, will they come back before the board for approval?
yes, we'll bring the grant disbursement awards to the board for approval.
Great. All right, thank you very much. All right, so I'll move that. Rob seconds it. Any other comments or questions? No.
I have a question, Chairman Law.
Sure, Francine, go ahead.
What if I understand correctly, is this, are all these programs out right now, or are they being prepared? Do
Yeah.
communities have access to all this information yet, or no?
We've had an extensive public engagement process, so our communities are well aware. We've engaged counties, nonprofits. We've done public events across the state and held many webinars. We're having one in about an hour for county and local governments for a technical assistance program. The funding programs are not all open right now because some of the federal funding is not yet available. We have to go through a number of required steps in that program. So the municipal infrastructure and assistance program, those grants are open now and being applied for, and we're reviewing those, along with the affordable housing connectivity program. The Connect All deployment program, we have an initial phase based on a revision that the board made to do county partnerships using state funding, so that is open now, but the federal funding for that won't be available until 2025, and that's just the timeline of the Commerce Department's implementation. Similarly, the Commerce Department implements the Digital Equity Program. They just notified us of the allocation, and we applied for that funding along with every other state and territory at the end of May, and every state and territory is having that application reviewed before their allocation is available for disbursement. So there again, we're providing technical assistance to prepare partners for that program, but the federal funding is not yet available, so the full grant program is not yet open.
Thank you. I'm sitting in the boardroom in Niagara Falls, New York, at the USA Niagara offices, and just outside the city of Niagara Falls are a lot of rural communities, many of whom do not have broadband access. That's why this information in particular is of interest to me, so I appreciate the response and the information. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Anybody else have any questions? All right, there's a motion, there's a second, there's no comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Josh. All right. Something we started about 2 years ago to the new board members, every board meeting, because we are a huge organization and there are so many different sectors that we touch. You've just heard of a couple, it could be broadband, it could be housing, it could be REDCs, it could be tourism, it could be investments in new startup companies. So we try to get a presentation, we call spotlight presentations, on some significant program that ESD operates and administers. And so all the board members find them useful and educational, and we spend about 15 minutes or so on them. And so we have Jason Clark, who is with us on the call. He's our Executive VP for the MWBD division, and he's going to present the spotlight presentation on the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development. Jason? Floor is yours.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chairman Law. And apologize, I was hoping to be there with all of you today, but after 4 years, COVID finally hit me. But here at the division, we don't let anything get in the way of helping minority and women businesses. That includes COVID. So we are here today, and we're excited about what we've been doing.
Well, you look great and you feel great, so and you sound great. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. So just as a little bit of a background, I joined the division last year, and what made me excited about this role was really knowing what's possible. Knowing that if we can really be able to help more minority and women businesses in our communities succeed, that can have a profound impact on the future of the state of New York's economy. You know, a lot of the conversations I've had with the commissioner, you know, she's always speaking about the importance of fostering a sustainable and inclusive growth. And to me, that means, you know, starting with our small businesses and starting with our MWBEs. And if we could be able to create an economic ecosystem that builds pathways for the historically represented, be able to focus on realizing the untapped potential of the MW community, you know, that's been our North Star. And we're really excited about what that can mean for the future prospects of our state. Next slide. So the first thing we did when I came to the division is set a couple of goals for DMWD, for the division. And the first was making sure that we're improving the certification process. Second is reinforcing the legal robustness of the MWBE program. The third is maximizing utilization opportunities. And the fourth is doing what we can to be able to reduce some of these barriers for success for MWBs. You know, next slide. And as we got started, you know, certainly the first thing was, you know, tackling certification. We've talked about it in a few other spaces, so I don't want to spend all of our time talking about the elimination of the backlog, but, you know, a couple of things to be able to go in here. So first, as you see, with Governor Hochul's support, you know, we're able to process 3,720 backlog applications and streamline the certification process. In January of last year, as you said, there are 3,720 applications that had yet to be completed. 1,850 of those applications were in an active ongoing review, but had not been finished. And another additional 1,870 had never even gotten started by our team. And what this also meant is that almost 1,300 applications had been waiting for over a year for determination. And while we also had to deal with the backlog, we also had new applications for certification, recertification that come in every single day. You know, on average, we get somewhere between 70 to 80 applications that would come every week. But again, with the resources provided by the governor, we're able to eliminate the backlog by processing over 6,000 applications, you know, for certification and recertification in 2023. So what that meant is that we were in a process then to be able to get MWBE certified faster. You know, a common refrain that I had heard throughout the last year, going on, attending panels, speaking with stakeholder groups, is that people were saying that it takes 2 to 3 years to be able to get certified. And sure enough, when we looked at some of the data from back in 2021, you know, on average, it took 490 days for a firm to be able to get certified. So by being able to do the work that we've done now, in November, we were able to commit to completing applications in 90 to 120 days. And while we're still early in the process, it's been approximately 8 months. And aside from a handful of applications, we've largely been able to meet that that pledge. In fact, not only have we been doing it within 90 to 120 days, I always say that it's always 90 to 120 days because some businesses take longer to complete than others. But on average, we're completing applications in less than 90 days, reflecting an 82% reduction in processing time from 2021. But while we were doing that, we also wanted to make sure that we had that we're doing everything we could and we're investing just as much time to ensure that we're coming to the right determination. You know, before we began our sprint, you know, we made sure that we met with every single certification analyst. And they all went through the same training, regardless of how much you knew or how new you were to the role, to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We transitioned to a horizontal review process that's there instead of to a vertical review process as opposed to a horizontal one, which means that that analysts were not working on applications in pieces, you know, intake, you know, going through the Q&A or what have you. Each analyst would have their own set of applications and they would review them all. And this led to less confusion and more efficiency as we're going through the process. We instituted and made permanent a quality assurance review to make sure that every application is triple checked for precision. And then back in February, we began conducting video interviews and site visits to make sure that we're giving every applicant an opportunity to be able to show that they meet the criteria for certification. A lot of what we would see is that businesses, sometimes there may be pertinent information that they did not include in their application that's there. So being able to have these video interviews and site visits has allowed us to be able to make sure that we have as much information as possible to be able to make an accurate and thorough determination. And then finally, as part of that, we're continuing to make sure that we're always reviewing our processes to make sure that more businesses that we know meet the spirit of the program are being able to get to the finish line based on what's permissible under Executive Law Article 15A and Title V. Next slide. So what this means is that we're in a process now that we're able to certify more more MWBEs than ever before. In 2024, so far, we've all been able to certify and recertify approximately 1,200 businesses. We're working with chambers of commerce, community development corporations, small business development centers, entrepreneurial assistance centers. I think I saw Bette in here, so she knows about some of this. We're doing everything we can to work with them to encourage more folks to apply so that we can be able to help them be able to take advantage of all these procurement opportunities that we have here with the state. And what we're also doing is making sure that we're increasing our engagement with the MWBE committee. So for example, in the past, there may be one time where an applicant would have an opportunity to meet and speak with a member of our certification team, and that would be at our annual forum. But, before we were doing this, I'd counted approximately 7 outreach events just in the last 6 months where we've been able to have certification analysts available to be able to speak with folks as they're going through the process. And again, these are things that we're now able to do now because we've been able to get past the certification backlog, and now we're being able to take those X steps in our evolution to make sure that the certification process is as effective and as easy as possible. Next slide. So I always try to put this in as much as possible, but this is something that we had done right after we completed the certification backlog that's there. Some of our analysts, I'm very proud of what they've been able to do, and I've always been a big fan of raving his hands. I think I like to look at it as saying goodbye to the backlog that's there. But again, this really shows, what we've been able to do in a short amount of time. And what I'll also add is a few months ago, we were able to bring on an MWB and small business advisor who has really been able to help us be able to recultivate some of the relationships with different stakeholders out there and have consistent meetings so that we can be able to hear directly from some of the leaders out there as to what they're seeing. And then we can be able to curate our approach better so that we could figure out ways to be able to be helpful. Next slide. So with all this being said as well, the second tenet that I mentioned is making sure that we're reinforcing the legal robustness of the MWBE program. And this is something that's especially important to me. My background as an attorney, I started my career learning from District Judge George Daniels. I spent several years as an assistant attorney general with the New York State Attorney General's office. And I was also a partner at a Black-owned litigation boutique. And in most of these roles, what I really tried to do is figure out how we could be able to champion the underserved. So preserving the robustness of our program is paramount to me and the division. Under Governor Hochul, our MWB program has been extended through December 31st, 2025. We've also been hard at work at finalizing a new disparity study to inform the reauthorization discussion. Because this process is ongoing, there isn't too much I'm really at liberty to be able to share at this moment, but I'm happy to report that we're looking forward to providing some productive information very, very soon. Next slide. So, maximizing utilization opportunities. One of the things are always telling our staff is that, it's so important that we make sure we get folks certified, but getting folks certified is not the end goal. The goal is to make sure that they're having an opportunity to be able to participate in these utilization opportunities. So under the governor's leadership, we are proud to announce at our last forum that we had a utilization rate of 32.3% for the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023. That's here, which is not only the highest utilization rate in the country, but also the highest in the history of the state of New York. And I purposely say it that way because we've had the highest utilization rate in the country for a number of years. So really what we're doing is trying to figure out ways how we can be able to push ourselves to be able to do more. And as it says there, make sure that we're going higher. And some of the ways that we're looking to do that now is to make sure that we're providing more help to our agencies and authorities, expanding access to capital and technical assistance out there, and taking a more data-driven approach to how we're utilizing the resources and opportunities that we have in the division to be able to help folks more. Next slide. So for example, when we're talking about how we're helping agencies and authorities, we're collaborating with agencies and authorities to be able to identify more MWB opportunities and how we could be able to connect them with contracting opportunities. Some of the ways that we're doing this is internally. We increased the size of our agency services team so that they have less of the 97 state agencies and authorities that each analyst is responsible for overseeing and working with. We're doing a lot of work when it comes to collaborating on goal plans. In fact, I was talking to our team. It seems that we are farther ahead in reviewing the goal plans and getting to a final determination, working back and forth with our analysts than we've had in recent years. We're working to develop cluster groups based on the industry so that the agencies and authorities themselves can play a stronger role in being able to identify how we can be able to create more procurement and utilization opportunities that are out there. In addition to that, we're starting to make sure that we're having more meetings with the commissioners, with the with the procurement officers, with the MWBE representatives and liaisons. Back in February, is actually the photo on the bottom left there. That's from our agencies and authorities retreat that we had, earlier this year. And additionally, on Thursday, we'll be having our first commissioners meeting with all of the state commissioners, leaders, as well as many of the chief procurement officers out there, so that we can discuss about what the goals are for the year and how we can be more helpful in making sure that we're doing as much as we can to help MWBEs. Next, we see building greater capacity, greater access to capital as well as technical assistance. So the first thing we have on there is the Initiative for Inclusive Entrepreneurship, which is something that we're supporting Liz's team with small businesses and technology to help more New York certified, more New York certified MWBEs be able to build capacity and explore funding opportunities and secure access to growth capital that's out there. And this really builds on the governor's commitment to supporting more minority and women businesses in New York State. Also, the second thing we have is our Business Growth Accelerator 3.0, which is something that I am very, very, very excited about. In fact, the commissioner may remember, I think it was probably in our first 101, started talking about how we can be able to do more in this space. Over the last year, we had our second version of our Business Growth Accelerator. There are 73 businesses that were part of it who went through a 12-month program to help them make sure that they had the tools and the networks and the resources to be able to develop and create more business growth that's out there. And it's led to over $100 million in contracting opportunities. But there's a lot of stuff that we've been looking at and figuring out how we can restructure, because there's more that I think we can be able to do here. And very excited about launching an RFP for the next version of BGA 3.0 later this month, with the program set to kick off in August, with a renewed focus on areas such as Central New York, given some of the opportunities that are coming out there, so that they can also we could do more to be able to fill some of the utilization gaps that are out there by targeting some of the trades that we know are sought by some of our agencies, as well as some of the other logic projects that are going on in that region, as well as throughout the state of New York. Next slide. And then, yes, as I was saying as well, we're also trying to do what we can to take an even more data-driven approach to how we're looking at utilization, participation, and reducing these barriers to MWBEs. Earlier this year, we reorganized our program so that now we have, for the first time ever, a VP of utilization who's going to take the lead in looking at some of these things and figure out how we can be able to do more to find solutions to some of those persevering issues that we know have really made it hard for MWBEs to get to that finish line when it comes to being competitive and receiving some of those contracts. We're doing more to be able to track a lot of the waiver requests that come out so that we could be able to identify some of the availability gaps out there so that our business development side can then be able to focus its attention in the right areas so that we can be able to uplift and make sure that more opportunities are going to women and minority businesses. And we're also tracking the MWB discretionary spends of the different agencies and authorities. Some of you may be aware that last year that discretionary threshold was increased to $750,000. And we look at this as an opportunity for the different authorities and agencies to provide new opportunities to early stage businesses, which then can lead to maybe more opportunities for them to be able to grow and do more for the ecosystem out there. Next slide. So with all these being said, this is where we are and this is where we've been able to get to at this point. But even with that, we know that there is so much more that we have to do. There's more that we're looking and excited about what's to come. We already have some efforts underway because we want to make sure, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but some of the ways that we're trying to increase the number of businesses that we know meet the criteria or very likely meet the criteria of the state certification program so that they can be able to get certified and be able to participate in all these opportunities out there. We're looking at ways to be able to increase the procurement of MWBEs from the recent record highs that we have so that we can be able to know that more opportunities are going to these minority and women businesses. And then finally, really permeating throughout our entire program and something that we talk about on a pretty regular basis is what are we doing to be able to tackle and reduce the disparity within the disparity? Even within the confines of the Minority and Women Business Development Program, we know we want to make sure that folks of all different backgrounds who meet the criteria through our disparity study out there are really have an opportunity to leverage these opportunities in procurement for them to be able to grow their businesses. So we're really taking a discerning eye as to what are some of the ways that we can be able to do more when it comes to outreach or do more to get them more certified so that they can be able to uplift communities from all over the state of New York. Next slide. And with that, that's a little bit of what we've been able to get done over the last year. We're very excited about what's to come, and always here and interested in folks' feedback so that we can help and do more. Thank you.
Well, Jason, thank you. A terrific report, very thorough. I know in the 2+ years I've been chair, the number one phone call I used to get, was people complaining about the whole certification and the recertification process. And the best example was somebody I met in the Lower Hudson Valley, small business, black-owned business. He goes, Kevin, as far as I know, I'm still black. And he couldn't get recertified. And but there was some glitch because of the way it was done horizontally and not vertically, the way you did it, suggested it. So I don't get those calls anymore. And that's great news, and everything else you're doing sounds terrific. And thanks for continuing with the report despite your COVID but you did a great job. I'll open it up now to other board members. Hilda, you have a comment, a question?
Yeah, I just, have you looked at simplifying the application?
Yes, so thank you for that question. So there are a few things that we're doing to be able to figure out how we can be able to simplify it and how to be able to help folks be able to get to that finish line. It's a tricky balance because on one sense, especially given some of the requirements and the challenges out there, we really want to make sure we're doing everything we can so that businesses that are certified through our program meet the definition as required through 15A as well as Title V. But we're looking at ways that we can, and there are a couple of things that we've been able to implement already, which I think will help with simplifying the components that we can be able to do so. But it's a balance because, we need to make sure that we're protecting the program itself, but we also recognize that making it easier for folks to get through the actual application, means that they'll be able to participate in these opportunities. But I'm more than happy to also have some conversations offline if there's some thoughts or feedback that you've received that you think would make the process a little easier for folks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, well, great job, Jason. Hope you feel better, and we'll see you the next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go to our regional projects section of the agenda. And so we got a lot to get to. We have some people here live with us. We got some people on the phone for our new board members. We tend to typically wrap up a meeting by 11. That's not happening today. But I am going to try to wrap it up by 11:30. So it gives us an hour to get through the rest of the agenda. So I'm going to ask the staff who are presenting to be, short and succinct and hit the highlights of what you want to share with the board members. Because I'm going to remind the board too, you can't escape because we're going to have a quick executive session at the end of the meeting too. So we need to get that in as well. So with that being said, we're going to start off in Western New York. We have two items, two separate votes, and we have Paul Tronalone, our VP of Planning and Policy, with two projects.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, directors. For the first item, the directors are asked to approve a $417,000 grant to People Incorporated of Buffalo from round 12 of the Regional Council Capital Award towards a $2.3 million project to renovate and outfit over 21,000 square feet of space in an existing building owned by the organization on Elmwood Avenue on the city's north side. The renovated space will house a center of excellence in employment and training for jobs in the behavioral health and human services fields. People Incorporated is a not-for-profit organization founded in 1970 and has grown to become one of Western New York's largest provider of services to persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, with over 200 facilities and 4,000 employees in the Buffalo and Rochester areas. Annually, the renovated facilities are anticipated to support the training of over 500 local workers in these fields and is creating 5 new on-site jobs, exceeding the organization's original job commitment for the project. And with that, I'll open it up to any of your questions.
Great. Let's get a motion on the table first. I'll move it. Hilda seconds it. Any comments or questions from the board members? Hearing none. We've received no comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Paul, please continue.
Thank you, Chairman. For the second item, the directors are requested to approve 2 grants totaling $1,527,150 and a loan for $900,000 to the Cedarland Development Group towards a $12.5 million project for the historic rehabilitation and reuse of the long vacant former Eckhart department store at 950 Broadway, an art modern building at the gateway to the Broadway Fillmore Business District in Buffalo's east side. The project will result in a mixed-use building that will contain 28 affordable apartments and a ground-level Head Start program run by the nonprofit Community Action Organization, which will provide free childcare and education for 55 25 families. The breakout of the specific sources of the funding, $2 million would be provided through ESD's Better Buffalo Fund, a competitive program to encourage infill development on transit corridors. Of that, $1.1 million of this would be provided as a grant, with $900,000 provided as a low-interest loan. The balance of the funding would be provided as a grant through the Department of State's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, or DRI, that was awarded to the City of Buffalo in 2022 for the Broadway Fillmore District. ESD would administer the DRI funds for this project on behalf of the Department of State. And the project's capital stack also includes federal and state historic tax credits and finance programs through the New York State Office of Homes and Community Renewal. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Right. Paul, I always get confused on this part. So is the Better Buffalo Fund separate from the Buffalo Billion, or is it a component thereof?
It is a component thereof, Chairman.
Got it. And so that program allows for loans because, I haven't seen too many loans from us. We typically do grants or we do tax credits. And this program allows us to do loans, and that's the $900,000 portion?
Correct. It allows for loans. As a basis, it provides for loans. And on our east side, are a little bit more challenged projects. On Buffalo East side, it allows for both loans and grants.
Got it. Thanks. Anybody else have any questions? So I will move it. Benson seconds it. No comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Paul. We'll move over to the Finger Lakes region. We got two items, two separate votes. We have Laura Fox O'Sullivan. She's our regional director of the Finger Lakes Region Office.
Thank you, Chair. First, we are asking the directors to approve a $2 million capital grant to Baldwin Richardson Foods from the Regional Council Capital Fund Round 11. Baldwin Richardson Foods is a privately owned custom ingredients and manufacturer of sauces, syrups, toppings, and fillings for the food and beverage industry. The company serves the food and beverage industry, including some of the world's leading quick service restaurants, consumer packaged goods brands, and food service companies. They also produce private label items for national grocery chains. The grant supports the renovation and machinery and equipment purchases for Baldwin Richardson Foods' two facilities in Wayne County, a project totaling $50 million. The company has constructed a new wastewater treatment plant in Maston. In Williamson, bulk dairy equipment was purchased to expand from 2 to 4 10,000-gallon silos, and upgrades are made to existing equipment. The project is ongoing, and costs to date have totaled more than $22 million and has been funded through company equity. Baldwin will be creating 60 net new jobs and retaining 364 jobs. The company has met the first milestone needed for disbursement, and the project is ongoing. Are there any questions for this project?
Any questions for Laura? All right, none. I will move it. Hope seconds it. No comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Continue, Laura.
For the second project, we're asking the directors to approve a $4 million, $75,000 capital grant from Round 2 of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative to the Genesee County YMCA, with a total project cost of nearly $30 million. The grant supports a portion of the cost to construct and furnish a 78,500 square foot health and wellness center in the city of Batavia in Genesee County. The facility will include space for a pool, fitness center, universal pre-K, before and after school care, camps, senior programs, and a community health partner for on-site medical visits. In 2015, the Genesee County Y leadership identified the challenges the facility faced due to its age, layout, and lack of accessibility, resulting in an expansion project to increase their reach among youth, seniors, and families throughout the community who will use the facility as a recreational and social hub. The city of Batavia was announced as a Round 2 DRI winner in October of 2017. The Genesee Y was included in its overall plan and was selected by the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council for funding in July of 2018. The Genesee County Y will contribute nearly $11 million, or 37% equity in the project. The remaining funds will be financed by new market tax credits, bank and not-for-profit financing. Rochester Regional Health, a medical services partner, DASNY, and funding from an ESD Restore grant that will be brought to this board at a future date. The grantee has incurred expenses to reach the first milestone for disbursement, and ESD is now recommending that the board authorize the release of the project funds. Any questions about this project?
Anybody have any questions for Laura on this? There are none. No comments from the public. I will move it. Michael seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Laura. Let's move over to the North Country. Again, 2 items, 2 separate votes. We have Stephen Hunt. He's our Regional Director for the ESD's North Country region.
Thank you, Chairman Law. I'm presenting 2 projects today for the North Country for board approval. First, we're seeking board approval of $4.1 million in capital grant support for the village of Lowville for a $15.3 million project to make capital improvements to their wastewater treatment plant. This project was necessary to accommodate a significant increase in demand from Kraft Heinz, which is a large food manufacturing facility located in the village, as well as escalating water quality and sewer capacity concerns. The project is supported by the North Country Regional Economic Development Council and is in alignment with the REDC's plans to invest in infrastructure that expands capacity in the region, and an incentive proposal in the amount of $4.1 million, comprised of a $2.5 million New York Works Economic Development Fund plus a $1.6 million Regional Council Capital Fund grant, was offered by ESD and accepted by the village in February of 2020. The project is also being supported by a $2,341,750 grant support from New York State Water Quality Improvement Program and the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Program, as well as an $8.9 million loan from the Environmental Protection Agency Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. Having incurred $15 million in project expenses and obtaining a certificate of occupancy, the village has satisfied the requirements for disbursement, and we are now recommending that the board authorize the release of funds for this project.
Got it. That's quite a capital stack, Steve. Well, any questions for Steve? Hearing none. I will move it. John seconds it. No comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries.
Okay, next we are seeking board approval of a $4.1 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative grant to the Lodge at Scroon Lake, LLC, to incentivize their $21 million project to renovate and rehab a former 35-acre not-for-profit retreat into a year-round hotel in downtown Scroon Lake. The project includes a hotel, chalets, cottages, restaurants, a ballroom, and indoor and outdoor amenities. This is a North Country Regional Council priority project. ESD undertook a study, and the Regional Council earmarked $10 million of their $50 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative allocation for a North Country lodging fund to address these types of projects. The purpose of the fund is to expand and support the area's thriving hospitality economy through investment in targeted lodging development in the Adirondack and Thousand Islands regions. The Adirondack and Thousand Islands region is vast, and locations like Scroon Lake offer opportunities for growth, but face barriers due to the high cost of development and the rate of return in these tertiary or lesser developed markets. The North Country Lodging Fund was established to help drive investment into these areas. The hotel currently has 44 employees, exceeding their anticipated 26, and the project was completed, and Governor Hochul cut the ribbon on the project with Commissioner Knight in June of 2023. ESD is now recommending that the board authorize the release of funds for this project.
That sounds fun. Sounds nice, Steve. Any questions from the board members? God bless you. We have no comments from the public. I will move it. Rob seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to the Mohawk Valley region, and we have Allison Madmoon, Regional Director of the Mohawk Valley region.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The directors are being asked to approve a Round 11 Regional Council capital grant of $459,700 to be used as a portion of the cost of construction, infrastructure and site work, land acquisitions, and engineering for the Utica Harbor Marina Waterfront Promenade. Utica Harbor Point Development Corporation was formed after legislation was passed in July of 2008, authorizing the Canal Corporation to convey approximately 30 acres of land for the purpose of the economic development of the Utica Inner Harbor waterfront. The UHPDC is a partnership dedicated to the long-term improvements and enhancements of the Utica Harbor to enhance access and appearance, as well as create entertainment, residential, and recreational opportunities that will lead to the attraction of new investment and revitalization along one of New York State's most prominent waterways, the Erie Canal. Once completed, Utica Harbor will be home to an attractive mixed-use district with an attractive public promenade and public marina as its centerpiece. Private investment will add a restaurant, event space, inside renovated canal facilities, hotel apartments, and condominiums to line the harbor and surrounding properties. The total budget for this project is $4,788,550, and ESD's participation in the project will be 10% of total project costs, $459,700. The project is consistent with the MVREDC's strategy for waterfront revitalization along the Erie Canal, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Allison? Hearing none. No comments from the public. I will move it. Hilda seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Allison. Okay, we'll move over to Long Island. We have Barry Greenspan. He's our Economic Development Program Administrator. Barry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, directors. The directors are being asked to approve a $300,000 grant to Nassau Candy, LLC, to pay for new manufacturing equipment and renovations in a newly leased plant in Westbury, Nassau County. The total project cost was $5,095,000, and the project was fully completed in the spring of this year. Nassau Candy is a Hicksville-based manufacturer and distributor of candies, nuts, and food products, and one of the country's largest distributors of food-based promotional products. The company has been in business for 80 years, privately owned, and manufactures candies, printed and wrapped chocolates, roasted and coated nuts, and fruit slices. Nassau Candy has worked with ESD on prior expansions over the last 5 years, and in June of 2022 approached ESD for assistance to lease a new building, a 36,000 square foot building in nearby Westbury to expand their food and candy production. Nassau Candy also has locations in California, Florida, Michigan, and Texas, with Long Island being the most expensive to operate. New York State assistance was needed to make New York a viable location to expand. The Regional Council and ESD scored this project highly because it would add 50 new manufacturing jobs to their workforce of 618. In addition to this $300,000 grant, the company was also approved for a $700,000 in Excelsior tax credits. Nassau Candy has received prior assistance and has always met or exceeded their job goals. The project is complete, the Westbury building is operational, and over $5 million in renovations and machinery has been added. And their workforce is now at 738, exceeding the 50 job commitment. The Regional Council is aware of this project as it aligns with our strategy to support food manufacturing. We are requesting your permission to disperse the $300,000 grant, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Barry. A lot of money in candy. Anybody have any questions? No comment from the public. I will move it. Michael seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion's approved. Thanks, Barry. Okay, we're now going to go to our Market New York grant program, and we have Ross Levy. He's our Executive Director and Vice President of Tourism. Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
We are asking the directors to approve 3 Round 13 Working Capital Market New York grants and 1 Round 12 capital project. The first project we are presenting for the board's consideration is a working capital grant of $275,000 to Clock Estate Holdings, LLC. Clock Estate is a capital region-based agritourism destination in Hudson, New York, offering visitors a one-of-a-kind opportunity to explore its 160-acre panoramic view of the Catskill Mountains while also providing an immersive distillery experience. Grant funding will be used to host and promote special agritourism events and expand existing marketing to build the region's reputation as a global destination. Those events include hands-on educational tours in the vineyards and orchards, performances by live musicians, and opportunities to craft and create with local artisans. Clock Estate Holdings has met the required 50% match for this project, and the project is underway. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Anybody have any questions from Ross? We have no comments from the public on these. And so I will move it, and John seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries.
Thank you. The next project for your consideration is another working capital grant of $375,000 to the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, known better as SPAC. SPAC is a Capital District-based not-for-profit organization that plays host to many of the world's most talented musicians, actors, and dancers in one of America's most famous and celebrated outdoor amphitheaters. SPAC will utilize their awarded funds to support a focused marketing effort to promote cultural engagements such as the New York City Ballet and the Philadelphia Philharmonic, and bolster its reputation as a must-visit arts destination in New York State. SPAC has matched ESD's grant with a $375,000 contribution, meeting the required 50% minimum. Total project costs are expected to be $750,000. Any questions on that project?
Any questions? Yeah, I'm advised we could do all of these votes together. So since there are no questions, Ross, why don't you continue with C and D, and then we'll take a vote on all of them.
Sure thing. So next for the board's consideration is a working capital grant of $490,000 to the National Comedy Center. The Comedy Center is the nation's official not-for-profit museum dedicated to comedy, based in Lucille Ball's hometown of Jamestown, New York, in Western New York. Named Best New Museum by USA Today, and with more than 50 immersive experiences, guests are educated and entertained by the center's cutting-edge technology as they journey through the story of comedy. The Market New York grant is being used for a marketing campaign focused on building awareness of the Comedy Center and increasing visitation and engagement from Canada and key U.S. markets. The National Comedy Center has met the required 50% minimum match for this project, and the project is already underway. And then finally, the last project we're presenting today is a Round 12 Capital Tourism Grant of $425,000 to Integrated Community Alternatives Network. ICANN is a Mohawk Valley-based not-for-profit organization that has a managed services contract for the operation and renewal of the Utica Children's Museum. ICANN is responsible for operations, development, marketing, and facility upkeep of the Children's Museum, which will be opening in a new location this year. Following up on past Market New York funding for the relocation of the museum into its new home, this grant was used to construct the exhibits for the museum, allowing it to offer visitors an updated, hands-on experience that will bring families to Utica and the region overall. ICANN has met the 10% equity requirement for the $4,137,228 total project investment and obtained a certificate of occupancy, and so this project is complete.
All right. So, SPAC, children, and I Love Lucy. How can we not vote for this? So I will move it. Rob seconds it. No comments from the public. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thanks, Ross.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Restore New York Communities Capital Grant. Simone Bethune, and she's our Senior Project Manager and Coordinator of Projects for Loans and Grants.
Thank you, Chairman Law. We are seeking Director's approval for a Round 4 Restore New York grant in the amount of $477,915 to the City of Oneonta in the Mohawk Valley region. The project involves the demolition of a 29,974 square foot vacant building at 27 Market Street and preparation of the site to make way for a new commercial mixed-use development. Known as the Oneonta Sales Building and located within the city's downtown historic district, the building formerly housed a Ford dealership. The demolition project was complete in January 2024 at a cost of $891,000 approximately, with the city contributing 46% equity into the cost. The site now serves as a temporary parking lot with 45 parking spaces in the lot, which are available to all downtown businesses and visitors. The city is currently marketing the site for sale to potential developers and has received an offer to purchase the site to build a multi-use building with commercial space on the ground floor and at least 50 units of affordable housing on the upper floors. ESD is now recommending the board authorize release of funds for this project as it is complete. And the second Restore item we're seeking director's approval for is a Round 7 Restore New York grant in the amount of $1,150,000 to the city of Kingston in the Mid-Hudson region. The project involves the rehabilitation of a vacant 20,000 square foot former school and convent building known as St. Joseph's. Founded in 1863 as a Catholic school, the building was reconstructed in 1912 and served for 105 years as a school until competition from online education and a declining college population forced it to close in 2017. In July 2023, the city was awarded funding from Round 7 of the program following its application. And thanks to the grant, the city of Kingston was able to work with CB developers to rehabilitate the vacant building into 3 floors of office space and an event center. The building now includes a total of 10 office suites, and the former gym space located on the 3rd floor was converted into an event center to host weddings, concerts, and cultural events. The project was completed in 2023 December at a cost of approximately $5.8 million, with the developer providing $2.4 million to the project. Because the project is complete, ESD is now recommending the board authorize release of funds for this project. And I can take any questions.
All right, well, thank you, Simone. Anybody have any questions from Simone? We don't have any comments from the public either, so I will move it. Hilda seconds him. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thanks, Simone.
Thanks.
All right, so now we have, Simone's still with us. I'm sorry. At the direction of projects. And Lorraine and Francine, these are the direction of are usually projects that the legislature or the governor propose in the budget, and they're administered through ESD. So we approve them, but they basically have already been blessed by those higher than us. So did I get that right, Simone?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, continue.
I just have one. We're seeking director's approval for a $500,000 fiscal year 2023-24 appropriation from the local assistance program made available at the direction of New York State Assembly Member Al Sturpey of the 127th District to Center State CEO. Center State CEO, Central New York's premier business leadership and economic development organization, will use the funds to support priority regional industries such as unmanned aerial systems and the semiconductor industry by locating and advertising shovel-ready development opportunities, recruiting businesses in the supply chain, and conducting outreach via trade shows, requests for proposals, and other vehicles to identify and improve key assets. These efforts will advance strategic industries in the central New York region and promote diversity and inclusivity in the local business community. Funding will be applied to these activities through December 2025.
So this is the one that Rob Simpson noted his recusal from. So let the record reflect Rob's recusal. Does anybody have any questions for Simone? Hearing none. No comments from the public either, so I will move it. John seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. And again, no Rob's recusal. Thanks, Simone. All right, next is Bet Yee, our interim VP, Entrepreneur Development and Operations. I think Bet's here.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Bet.
Good morning, directors. I first need to make a correction to the agenda item to accurately reflect the materials that the board members received. To say that we want to make authorization to make 3-year grants and to take related actions. So the Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers has been operating for nearly 40 years, and after more than a decade and a half, the New York budget more than doubled our funding. And what this did was allow us to expand our network of partner organizations and increase our network from 24 centers to 26. We received 28 applications, and after a thorough review process, it was determined that 26 applications met the eligibility criteria to function as an entrepreneurship assistance center. These centers constitute a network that is strategically dispersed across the state, ensuring equitable coverage to effectively reach communities in need. ESD is seeking approval from the board for 3-year contracts with 26 centers at a rate of $173,000 per year per center, amounting to a cumulative $4,498,000 for each of 3 years, subject to the availability of state appropriations. It is further stipulated that centers shall be responsible for providing matching contributions of 20% for the grant, with 10% or more in cash and no more than 10% in-kind contributions. The project will commence on July 1, 2024, and will be renewed for up to 2 additional years upon ESD's sole discretion and determination of the EAC's successful annual completion of project goals, and again, subject to the availability of state funds. Happy to take questions.
So all these entrepreneurship centers will get a grant for 3 consecutive years. And
Correct.
there's no guarantee they get it after that.
It will come back to the board.
They'll come back to the board. Got it. And these are all throughout the whole state,
Yes,
centers?
yes, they're equally distributed.
Thank you, Bet. Anybody have any other questions for Bet? If there's no questions from the public, I'll move it. Benson seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Bet. All right. So now we have Christina Lopez, and so bear with her. She has 7 items, but the good news is we only will have to take 1 vote. So we'll hear from the 7 items. We could, Christina, after each one, we'll just pause, see if anybody has any questions. Then if not, go on to the next one.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And good morning, directors. The directors are being requested to approve the release of funding for 8 projects for the Office of Strategic Workforce Development's Pay for Performance Program operating grants. The Office of Strategic Workforce Development launched these programs in October of 2022 as part of Governor Hochul's $350 million investment in workforce development enacted in the fiscal year 2023 budget. The office has $150 million in grant funding for 2 program tracks, a $35 million workforce capital grant program, and a $115 million pay for performance operating grant program. The office is requesting the directors to approve the following pay for performance program operating grants to the following, which are more fully described in the materials you received. The first is Math, Engineering, and Science Academy, Mesa Charter High School, in the amount of $667,790 to be used to create the Alumni Lab and a 15-week training program in digital marketing. Wraparound supports for programming include transportation, meals, emergency resources, job search, and retention support services. Are there any questions? Okay. The next is Suffolk County Community College in the amount of $399,435 to be used to create a new CNC machining training program and supplemental CNC Swiss machining program to meet the needs of Long Island's manufacturers. Wraparound supports for these programs include transportation and childcare. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on this? Nope. Continue, please.
Okay. Albany Can Code Inc. in the amount of $678,207 to be used to create competency-based IT training for a more inclusive, diverse tech talent pipeline across the state. CanCode will provide stipends to cover childcare and transportation costs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions?
Youth Action Programs and Homes Incorporated in the amount of $269,580 to be used to create the Next Gen Digital Workforce Program, an industry-driven training preparing low-income youth for high-demand careers in network management and fiber installation. The program is free to participants, and wraparound supports include stipends for attendance, transportation, and access to Youth Action social service referral partners. I'm happy to take any questions.
No, don't see any questions here.
Andromeda Community Initiative in the amount of $838,705 to be used to create the Construction Careers Pathway Program, a two-track training that provides specific learning in the fundamentals of general construction and masonry restoration, or general and clean energy construction. The programs are provided at no cost to participants, and wraparound supports include transportation, meals, emergency resources, job search, and retention support. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions?
St. Nick's Alliance in the amount of $700,000. St. Nick's Alliance will partner with General Assembly, a tech training provider, to train individuals in either a 10-week data analytics course or a 14-week data analytics immersive course. Both courses begin with workplace success skills, provide ongoing support services including stipends, and will conclude with assistance in securing full-time quality jobs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, there are no questions.
And finally, Social Enterprise and Training Center Incorporated in the amount of $638,827 to be used to provide training for and underemployed individuals to pursue careers in the Capital Region's film and video production industry. I'm happy to take any questions.
Don't see it. No questions on that one either.
Okay, we are recommending that the board authorize the release of funding to these grantees.
Christina, we haven't received any comments from the public. Always good to be investing in our workforce, and these sound like seven good projects. I will move them. John seconds them.
Chair, can I just make a note for the record that item 7 on the formal agenda, which was pulled, related to a project that we're working on. So I just want to be very clear with the folks in the room. I'm not voting on something that I am should be recused from. So item 5F was an item that I would have been recused from had it not been pulled off the agenda.
Got it. So let the record reflect Rob's comments. Let the minutes reflect Rob's comments that item F was pulled, and therefore there was no need for him to recuse himself, as he mentioned he otherwise would have. With that caveat, and so we have the 7 items before us, and so I move them. John second them. Any other comments or questions? Here are none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting there, folks. So we have the New York Ventures Emerging and Regional Partner Program Fund. We have 5 investments, and we need to take 5 separate votes on these investments. So first up is Sylvia Codney, or Codoni? How do you say it?
That works.
Codoni or Codney?
Codoni is fine.
Very good. Sylvia, she's our Assistant VP, New York State Venture Capital Fund.
Thank you. We're asking for approval of an investment in up to $500,000 in its electric on its seed round of funding. We have made no previous investments into this company. Its electric creates a distributed network of curbside charging stations that offers level 2 electric vehicle charging with a vehicle-agnostic detachable cord. Its electric offers a sky-level solution that will solve the problem of the lack of EV charging infrastructure for urban drivers that do not have a private parking. This helps increase adoption of electric vehicles and will not burden the municipal budgets. It's Electric is a woman-led company based in New York, and its first pilot was in Brooklyn. As part of the due diligence process, the New York State Innovation Venture Capital Fund staff and the External Advisory Committee have evaluated the company business plan, growth prospects, as well as the term of the investment. And as a result of this analysis, both the staff and the IAC agree that there is a good market opportunity and growth potentials and recommends the approval of this investment.
Sylvia, you used the term woman-led. Is it a woman-owned business or is it just led by a woman?
It also has ownership, but is not over 51%. There is other partners and investors. So I believe that the definition of woman-owned would not be if we are thinking 51% or over.
You were paying attention, and I picked up the difference between the words. But thank you for the clarification. And then just also for Lorene and Francine, we have, we do a lot of, we help a lot of startup companies, and sometimes we make an investment, and the state will share in the upside of that. And then sometimes we're giving grants to companies too. But these are investments. So if they succeed and they become the next NVIDIA or whatever, the state will make some money on it. Anybody have any questions for Sylvia on this one? Here are none. We have no comments from the public. I will move it. Michael seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Sylvia, continue, please.
Thank you. The other investment we are seeking approval for is an investment of up to $650,000 into OncoPrecision. The New York City Innovation Venture Capital Fund has previously invested $400,000 in the company, and therefore the total investment now would be $1,050,000. OncoPrecision has developed a platform that leverages single-cell high-throughput biology and AI and machine learning methods to identify and de-risk promising drug targets that develop new therapeutic drugs in areas of high unmet need like oncology. The company was founded in 2020 as a spin-out of Dr. Gaston Soria's Cancer Synthetic Lethality Lab in Argentina and moved to the headquarters here in New York, where it has a growing team. This investment will be used for working capital and to advance the company's product pipeline. And as the previous investment, it has been reviewed by the New York State Innovation Venture Capital staff and by the advisory committee, and both recommend the approval of this investment.
Very good. And that's another good point for Lorene and Francine again. So in addition to the professional staff that we have looking at these investments, we always have an investment advisory committee made up of different people dependent upon different companies, and they chime in with their opinions as well. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's correct. We always seek external advice from other investors. They are also investors and understand the space. So we want a second opinion. And if I may, I will also say the benefits of these programs, they get recycled into the program again. So we would redeploy to new startup companies. So hopefully we are creating a virtuous loop in growing innovation in the state.
Very good. All right, so I will move it. Hilda seconds it. No comments from the public. Any other comments from the board? Here are none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Sylvia. Next up is Karan Mehta. He's our Senior Director from the New York State Venture Capital Fund with one item for us.
Thank you. We're asking the directors for approval of an investment of up to $700,000 in Hedrill's seed round of financing. We have made no previous investments in this company. Hedrill is a tech-enabled structural engineering firm that uses AI to automate the structural engineering process for real estate development projects. Hedrill's software enables its structural engineers to generate code-compliant 3D building information models in minutes versus weeks, significantly accelerating the delivery of stamped drawings. Hedrill is a New York City-based minority-led team with many of its customers and projects based in New York. Proceeds from this financing round will be used as working capital to expand the team. As the previous investments, it has followed the same due diligence process with the New York Venture staff and the External Investment Advisory Committee, both of which recommend the approval.
Right. And Karan, is this AI investment going to put architects out of business? Or is this going to be a tool for them to use?
It will be a tool for developers to use eventually.
Got it. Very cool. Startup company?
Yes.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Karan? Hearing none, we have no comments from the public. I will move it. Benson seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Good job, Karan. And then we have Jennifer Teagan, our Managing Director for New York State Ventures, and she has two items for us.
Good morning, directors. We're requesting that the directors authorize investment commitments from the State Small Business Credit Initiative and its Emerging and Regional Partner Program Fund. So New York Ventures both invest directly in startups, but we also support fund managers with this program who then use that capital to also invest in startup companies, high growth New York State companies across the state. We invest in these funds that are led by emerging managers and those that are focused on underserved regions of the state. And the fund managers will then invest those monies alongside private funds with $1 for every SSBCI dollar invested into a single company. The New York Ventures staff conducts the evaluation of each application, and then we'll continue to review those applicants until the funds are exhausted. We have two fund managers to recommend this morning. The first is actually one that was approved previously by the board in July 2023 in Collide Capital. It's a New York City-based venture capital firm led by two diverse partners. Originally, we were approved to invest in Collide Capital's second fund, but we've had, after further discussion with them and in consideration, we're actually recommending that we partner with them for the third venture capital fund that they are just starting to raise. Now, we believe that that will better serve the catalytic ability of this capital that we provide them and continue to drive the types of activities in New York State around the innovation ecosystem. And I'll just, Kevin, I don't know if you wanted to approve them separately or together, but I'll stop there in case there are any questions about Collide.
Debbie, can we do this one together? No, we got to do them separately. All right. And Jennifer, are these federal funds that we are then administering at the state and then providing to these two entities, Collide and Commonweal?
Correct. This is from a United States Treasury program that we received a $500 million allocation for small businesses for both lending and equity programs.
Right.
And this one is a portion of that. And we're recommending, $5 million to invest with Collide Capital as part of that program.
Got it. So Francine and Lorraine, just to confuse you more, sometimes we get federal monies, they come through the states and then they come through ESD and we administer those, and now we're investing them in these companies who will then further invest them. We just like to, we're government, so we got to make sure it's complicated, but it does work. Does anybody have any questions for Jennifer on the Collide Capital investment? All right, no comments from the public. I'll move it. Rob seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. That motion is approved. Jennifer, continue, please.
Great, thank you. The second investment fund that we're recommending is in Commonweal Ventures. We propose making a $3 million investment in this New York City-based fund, and they'll use that money to invest alongside another $3 million of private capital into New York State-based companies. Commonweal invests in early-stage technology companies and markets such as clean energy, healthcare, and government services. It invests in mission-driven startups that support priorities of the public sector, and that will also utilize government commitments, including grants, loans, investments, tax incentives, and procurement contracts and concessions. Commonweal is led by two general partners who have extensive experience and networks in the financial and in the public sector. And in addition to its team in New York City, it's been engaging with a wide range of advisors and partners in both the public and private sector. Additionally, Commonweal partners with the City College of New York to run a Venture Fellows program that helps to train the next generation of diverse venture investors. We conducted a diligence on Commonweal and conclude that investing in Commonweal Ventures will help support the innovation ecosystem in New York State. And we recommend to the directors that you authorize an investment in Commonweal for up to $3 million. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Jennifer on this one? Hearing none, no comments from the public. I will move it. Michael seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Good job, Jennifer. Thank you, guys. Let's move over to the administrative actions. We have a lot of time, again, for Lorraine and Francine. These are actions we usually lump all together. We hear presentations. Of course, the materials were submitted to us earlier, and then we take one vote. But here we're breaking them up. We have Vinny Esposito, who's going to provide one. We have Meredith Andriucci, who's going to prepare another. And then we'll have Kyle Satchel, and he'll prepare the last five. We're going to start with Vinny Esposito. He's our Senior Vice President for Regional Economic Development. Vin?
Good morning, Kevin, directors. Congratulations to our new directors. Francine, it's great to have you on board. This item requests $8 million approval from the Regional and Economic Community Assistance Program to enter into a contract with Olin Partnership Limited for consultant services to help design the new proposed High Falls State Park in downtown Rochester. Olin responded to a request for proposal issued by ESD and were selected from a committee that included ESD staff from New York State Parks, and also the City of Rochester, which are the partners working to create the new state park, which is part of the Rock the Riverway initiative that's been really a joint venture between ESD and the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council and the City of Rochester for the last several years. Be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Vince, explain why ESD is overseeing this. If it's a park, why isn't this being done by the Parks Department?
Great question. So Rock the Riverway is an initiative, as I mentioned, that ESD has been funding, and this appropriation also is funded to ESD. So we've been working in partnership with New York State Parks to create the park, but until the parcels are acquired, it will be an economic development initiative funded through this RECAP program, at which point we'll hand it off to the New York State Parks Department to work with the design consultant.
So it's not a park until it's a park.
That's right. You've got it.
Very good.
It's a project until it's a park.
Right, very good, very good. All right, does anybody else have any questions for Vince? We have no comments from the public, and so I'll move this, and Hilda, of course, will second this. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion's approved. Thank you, Vince. So next up, Hope in her report highlighted that we're happy to have Meredith Andriucci on board as our Senior VP and Executive Director of our Go Semi division now to help us with the Micron and other semiconductor businesses we're trying to lure here to the state. And she has an item for us as well. Meredith?
Hey, Hope, Kevin, the directors, just I know we're looking for brevity, but just one, because it's Meredith's first presentation. We have two new directors. We have a little bit of color to help frame the sort of magnitude of this opportunity and why we're procuring this service. So it's a little bit longer than I know we're looking for today, but I think given our new directors in particular, I think helpful to have a little bit more color about what we're doing here.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Law and Commissioner Knight, and welcome, Francine.
The directors are requested to authorize a contract with McKinsey and Company for an amount not to exceed $9,497,997.54 for strategic guidance, implementation recommendations, and direct implementation support to the newly established Empire State Development Office called GoSemi, which stands for Governor's Office of Semiconductor Expansion, Management, and Integration. Governor Hochul launched the office to capitalize on Micron's historic $100 billion investment for a new semiconductor megafab in central New York and to lead a broader effort to grow the state's semiconductor industry. I am really honored to have been selected by the governor and President Knight to lead this important office with Empire State Development. The combined investments of Micron, GlobalFoundries, Wolfspeed, and New York Creates, amongst many others, have created transformative impacts to our state. I want to mention a couple. Capital investments, 125 billion in capital investments and over 15,000 direct jobs throughout the state, and tens of thousands of indirect and construction jobs associated with these projects. Just Micron and GlobalFoundries alone, some studies that Empire State Development has done, are projected to add to the state's GDP over $10 billion annually over the life of these projects, $600 million annually in state tax revenue, and about $890 million annually to local governments. This contract comes at a really critical juncture for New York's rapidly growing semiconductor ecosystem. While we are leading the nation in new semiconductor investment and we are positioned for more, our success is not assured. These projects are very complex endeavors in a highly competitive global environment requiring new levels of organizational support, expertise, and coordination. I think building that capacity now will ensure success of not only Micron's and GlobalFoundries investment, but deliver on the long-term promise to our New York communities and economic development, potential to our New York economic and communities. Thank you for the opportunity to present this important contract, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Meredith. I have a question. I don't know if it's for you or for Kevin. If you, I know McKinsey has been in the news a bit over, the last few years with various issues, and their selection was done pursuant to a procurement or RFP, and we found them qualified nevertheless regarding their recent hiccups with other industries. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes, Kevin. So,
that's for both.
As you know, we go through we're tough hearing you at the moment, actually.
Repeat the question.
But I think what you asked was, sort of what's the process by which we went through to procure these guys and to make sure they're a reputable vendor. And so we, as you know, we do a rigorous assessment of the, what's the term that we use? Responsible vendors. And, there were some things in McKinsey's past where we dove deeper into, but, with those deeper dives, we're confident they have taken the steps necessary to ensure that more broadly they're doing the right thing. But as it relates to this contract in particular, we'll put ourselves in a good position and working with them.
Got it. I think, Meredith, you couldn't hear me because I was looking at you guys on the screen. My back was facing the microphone, so we're all getting used to the new facilities here. But I hope you could hear me now. And so that's fine. And Kev, do they actually have folks in the semiconductor industry, or do they have a semiconductor division there? I know they're huge, thousands of employees.
They have expertise across all the core areas laid out in our RFP. So they have experts who focus on the supply chain. They have experts in R&D. They have experts in workforce development and experts in sustainability. So they're very deep in all the areas laid out for our RFP.
Got it. Good. Any other board members have any other questions? No, we have no comments from the public on this. I'll move it. John seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you.
It looks like Francine had something.
Oh,
Francine, it looks like she was trying to chime in. You're muted again, Francine.
sorry,
Francine, you're
Francine.
muted.
Sorry, Francine.
This mute unmute is not working for me, but I just wanted to welcome Meredith to ESD. I've known her for more years than I care to admit to, but she'll do a great job. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to work with you again.
All right. Well, thank you for that comment. All right, so there was a motion, there was a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Meredith. So now we'll have Kyle Satchel, our associate counsel, filling in for Doug Janice, who will walk us through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, five items. And we'll ask questions at the end, and we'll take one vote at the end. So walk us through these, Kyle, please.
Thank you, Chair Law, and good morning, directors. Just as a reminder, in order to help streamline our board meetings, we implemented an oral summary presentation process in connection with the administrative action section of our agenda. You received a full set of written descriptive materials for each of these items in your board materials, but rather than having individual oral presentations made on each, I will provide a brief summary of the items. At the conclusion, we will then entertain any comments or questions that directors may have. The remainder of the administrative action items are summarized as follows. Item C, at its May 16th, 2024 meeting, the ESD Governance Committee of the Directors reviewed the mission statement and performance measures last modified in 2017 and recommended a number of changes. The proposed updated mission statement reflects ESD's increased focus on inclusion, sustainability, assisting disadvantaged populations, community revitalization, and housing, while emphasizing ESD's guiding focus on business development and job creation. The proposed updated performance measurements include specific reporting of small business assistance and broadband and digital infrastructure, in addition to the number of projects ESD has supported overall, jobs created and retained, and investment awarded and leveraged, and the utilization of certified MWBEs in ESD procurement. Item D. Pursuant to the Public Authorities Law, ESD must annually create a performance measurement report that is consistent with the authority's mission statement and performance measurements. The performance measurement report that is in the board materials summarizes grants and loans that were approved by ESD during fiscal year 2023 to 2024. In total, last fiscal year, ESD approved grants and loans to 353 organizations totaling $1.04 billion of ESD assistance, which will leverage over $1.3 billion of additional investment while retaining 3,880 jobs and creating 1,266 jobs. Item E. The board is being asked to approve a payment pursuant to the Electric Generation Facility Cessation Mitigation Fund to Chautauqua County in the amount of $286,053.72. The payment will offset a reduction in property tax revenue to the county due to the closure of the Dunkirk Electric Generating Facility in January 2016. Approval of this payment will bring total disbursements from the fund to approximately $81.3 million of the $140 million authorized for the program, leaving a program balance of approximately 42% of the authorized funding. Item F. The directors are requested to authorize an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding with the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York for the Moynihan Station Civic and Land Use Improvement Project to provide permitting authority services for all work performed on the project to Site I, ESD, along with the, Site 1, along with the ESD, Site 2, ESD's condominium unit ground leases and their tenants and subtenants, as well as the James A. Farley condominium, which is the governing entity of the facility and maintains the train hall common elements. The request is for a 5-year extension to June 30th, 2029, with a contract increase of $250,000. The amendment would increase the aggregate limit of the contract to $5.25 million. DASNY was first engaged in 2017 in conjunction with the Moynihan Train Hall Phase 2 construction to provide permitting services for the redevelopment of the James A. Farley building. The Moynihan Train Hall facility is permitted to New York State code and will never be subject to New York City building code. As a result, the need for DASNY services within the facility will continue. Staff recommends that the amendment be ratified as described in these materials. Please note that item G was pulled from the agenda pending some additional approvals. Lastly, item H. The directors are requested to authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with Quality and Assurance Technology, a New York State certified MWBE, to provide SecureWorks Taegis software licenses for ESD to meet the needs of the corporation. ESD deploys security, leveraging a multitude of security appliances and technologies to protect the network that in critical business operations, which include these licenses. The contract is for a term of 3 years for a total contract amount not to exceed $336,399. I will now turn it back to our chair, who will call for any questions or comments you might have on any of these items before calling the vote. We also have an item-related staff on the line today as well to take any questions. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Kyle. So again, for Lorraine and Francine, just a couple items. First, take a look at the new mission statement. Hadn't been revised in a couple of years. Hope and I met with the governance committee in May, and Felicia and folks did a great job revising it, so take a peek at that. The other item here, again, I alluded to it before, every time the state legislature creates a program, where do we put it, where do we put it? We'll dump it into ESD. So when they decided to help communities with property taxes as fossil fuel plants and other plants were closing, they created a pot of money to help offset those. Again, they put it in ESD. That's what that program is for. So the others are sort of self-explanatory. Anybody else have any other questions on those administrative actions? All right, we have no comments from the public on any of them. I will move them. Hilda seconds them. And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, 11:36. I was 6 minutes off. We got through all of that. Staff, thank you for a great job. I'm going to now make a motion to go into executive session, seconded by Rob. We're going to just briefly, it's not a controversial item, but it's a legal matter, so we're going to go discuss it in executive session. We're going to come back and then take an action on it. Staff does not need to stick around, but we're going to move into a different room, and then we're going to come back up. So hopefully we'll wrap up in a few minutes after that.
The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return. The board has entered executive session. Please stand by. The meeting will resume when they return.
We're back. And Francine, can you hear us as well?
I can.
Okay. thank
Yes.
you. All right. All right. So we just had an executive session. No votes were taken in the executive session. We discussed some legal matters, and I'm now making a motion authorizing to indemnify a former officer or director up to an amount of $25,000 and on a legal matter. And so I will move that. Rob seconds it. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. That concludes our official business. Does any director have any other further matter they'd like to raise at this time? Hearing none. Again, I want to welcome Francine and Lorraine. Thank you. Next time I'm going to call on you to make motions. I left you alone. I left you alone. I left you alone for the first meetings. We're going to our next. We're going to meet next on July 18th here. We give staff a well-deserved break in the month of August. And so no meeting in August, and we'll meet again then in September. But with that, I'll move to adjourn. That Hilda seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.